Hey everyone, and welcome to the Neurofuck Podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Rosa, and over here we have...
Haley Olivia.
Wonderful. Well, let's not waste any of your precious time. Let's get right to the episode. Hit it, Terrence.
It's time for Neurofuck Podcast with your host, Jackson Rosa, that mischievous motherfucker, Haley Olivia. What's your name, girl? You on the spectrum? And Terrence. We've got autism, ADHD, OCD, all the D's. We got stories and artists from all walks of life. It's time to get fucked neurologically.
We have the amazing Galen Howard right here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's me. Whoa.
And he's a super talented actor.
Such a great party. Everyone had the best time. I mean, except for Lyndon.
Lyndon wasn't happy?
Yeah, it was strange. He was passing through the living room. I asked him if he wanted a little HJ, but he just ignored me. I mean, who doesn't want an HJ from their cousin?
Hold up, an HJ?
A head job, a massage. Well, isn't that what everyone calls
I
it?
don't have any siblings. But if I did, I don't think I'd protest against them. Let's go back. Boba Fett.
Do you have an appointment?
I found one of his stray pets. I'm here to return it to its master.
Well, I don't see your name in the schedule, so you'll have to... Okay.
He's actually had a podcast of his own before.
I've done podcasts before. I've tried to do my own, but like I'm terrible. I have no patience for editing. Like that's the one thing is like, and especially like on the audio side, like I would get like really like anal about like editing out like a lot of my my own like neurodivergent additives, that I would add in, and so then I would just get like no, and then I would just have like a big existential crisis, and then just stop.
I understand.
So it's much more fun to guest on other people's like this one, where they get to handle all the post production.
I have to already edit out so many of Haley's but it's okay.
Yeah.
I already did 50 million in comment. Oh my goodness.
Amazing. Oh, those are all the little additives. They're so fun. Yeah. All the false start sentences. Yeah.
I think it was developed.
Yeah, don't tell me more. I'm excited. I'm excited at this. I'm excited at this new revelation in podcast recording. If vocal additives are the trend now, I'm in.
Exactly. Actually, let's talk a little bit more about vocal additives because that's actually a great subject to segue off of. Why do we feel the need, and why is it especially big among people who are neurodivergent in that case? Do this.
Why can't we shut up?
Yeah. Is my big one.
Oh yeah, right? That's mine. I go right?
Oh yeah.
You know what? That one screams you're asking for validation.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
Right? So there's a way. No. That's how a normie would interpret it. I feel like potentially, but no. Yeah, mine. I think I can do. I'm picking up the you-knows. I pick up them from the environment.
Of course.
That makes sense.
I do have the uhs.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people around the world have a version of
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes. I think they're more prominently than others, but yeah, absolutely.
I think most likely I'll have a word of the month where I'll just insanely use. It'll be like a thesaurus.
Yes.
I'll somehow get fixated on that one adjective.
I do that
to
a lot.
describe everything.
I do that a lot. Yeah. I'll get that. I'll get that kind of thing. Yeah. I think I would. Yeah. Like little catchphrases, little things, little placeholders. Right where it's like you have the thought that's formatting, and you want to have like a response. So it's kind of those little things are kind of like I'm getting to it.
Exactly. It kind of takes the pressure off of formulating your thoughts later.
It's a template in a way.
Yeah. I use
a template. That makes
I
sense.
use a lot of like affirmatives, like like an absolutely or right or a 100%. I do those a lot.
It's very politician-like.
100%. Let me distract you with
100%.
these words that seem like they mean something, but they don't.
Right, because I'm still figuring out what the fuck I'm gonna say.
Exactly.
Everything's there's a lot of filler words, and I think
100%. Yeah, the filler words, exactly.
I tend to one of the things about that I kind of relate it to would be impulsivities and just overall attachment to speaking sporadically, speaking extemporaneously. I come from a background where I had Tourette's, like physical tics, and I'm on the spectrum as well.
Sure.
And the feeling of having a tic, I feel like sometimes people attach that anxiety to their words. So like if it becomes a compulsive nature to repeat the word or the phrase, you're not even in control of it at a certain point. It's just compulsive. And it actually might be comforting to have that word in a way, the repetition of it.
That's what I was going to say. It kind of does feel comforting when you say them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You're
100%,
still
yeah.
involved in the conversation, but you're not like relied upon. I guess that's how it feels. Let's talk a bit more about you and your background
That makes sense.
and kind of like introducing you to our audience and everything. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your acting career, or even anything else that you feel is special to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, certainly, as in relation to this podcast, I was born on. I was diagnosed on the autism spectrum as an adult. I think as a kid, I was kind of misdiagnosed with a variety of different, as they call them, learning disabilities. Learning differences, learning conditions, however you want to call it now. But yeah, ultimately, it was designated as what we now call atypical autism, and so because of that, I was had a lot of trouble like processing information as a kid, doing anything that was completing any tasks on an efficiency based matrix, that sort of thing. Like that's that was out the window for me, and and then just socializing, relating to my peers and that sort of thing. I was I found I was able to socialize. I was able to relate more to like my parents' adult friends and that sort of thing, because they had. They had more patience. It wasn't just everything immediate. They were able to just be like, "Oh, great, let me listen to you. Let me hear what you have to say," that sort of thing. And I had the safe space to like express myself,
Oh, that kind of gave me a realization when you said that.
Yeah.
Because I was diagnosed, let's cut that out.
I'm not cutting anything out. Don't make more work for me. Just keep going. Just if you mess up, just keep going.
Fix it post, Jackson.
No.
Do it now. Yeah.
I've had a long day. I'm flubbing up right now.
No, just don't worry. Yeah.
But anyways, I went to a therapist like probably a year and a half ago or so.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, you tested positive for all of these personality disorders and all of these things." And I was like, I can't possibly what are you talking?
Like all of them at once?
Am I okay? Am I okay? And then the next time I went to see them, they were like, "Okay, did you ever think that maybe you were on the spectrum?" And we started diving into that conversation.
Yeah.
And so I mostly got into that realm and started understanding myself as being autistic way later in my life. So you saying that, talking to the adults and everything, people who are older, who have the patience for you, I had the same experience.
That's awesome.
I just didn't know it was because of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was coming of age in the 80s and 90s when there really was no kind of context for a lot of that, or very 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 limited.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I was as I got older, I found, again, would have a lot of trouble relating to my peers, a lot of trouble kind of expressing myself. My stammering and stuttering was even more pronounced when I was younger, when I was still kind of having, kind of grappling with how I express myself and dealing with a lot of things. And I'm sure my social anxiety compacted that as well. But that is to say, I found, I had a very active imagination, and so I found that when I discovered acting, I think my parents enrolled me in like a summer program or something when I was a kid, and and I realized that this is like a structured environment in which I can express myself, in which I can I think what all acting comes down to is I think a love for storytelling, and so I think that that was a great kind of structure for me to be able to explore my imagination and kind of express myself in a structured environment. Otherwise, in the normal social setting, I think for a lot of us on the spectrum, it's there's a lot of that anxiety of not having that structure of like, how do we socialize, how do we express ourselves, how do we do those things, and having that that structured environment in acting was like a real kind of a real breakthrough for me.
When did you journey into acting? When did you find it was your safe space, really?
I mean, definitely when I was when I was probably preteen. I think I started that when I was started exploring that more. Preteen, 11, 12, and then started taking classes, doing kind of plays in school and that sort of thing. And it was gradually from there realizing like, oh yeah, this is where I need to be.
Oh,
that's awesome. Wait, you get in the zone, like, because
in the zone, exactly.
I was gonna kind of get into that. We talked in different like aspects. For me, it's music, or it's also can be film. But when you are in your kind of zone of focus, from a neurodivergent perspective, what does it take for you to get there, or is it actually easy? Does it click that part of your brain where you're just like, I'm in acting mode, I'm on set? What is the transition between you in your kind of current energy and you, the actor?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely helped having that the environment of like either like being on this on the stage in the theater or on the set, because there's all those kind of reminders of just like kind of in like, oh, I'm in a work environment, I'm in a classroom, whatever. It's like those things that kind of click in of like, oh, this is where I need to be, but it's finding the place that's safe for you, and like not the place and the place where I think for me it's like it's the place where your where your strengths are emphasized instead of your limitations. And I know for me, I think for a lot of people growing up, that's what school was where their limitations were emphasized and not their strengths.
Yeah.
And so to find
exactly,
and so to find a place like to find your that safe space, to find where some kind of creative or structured environment where you can thrive is just it's the breakthrough for everyone.
Do you feel like you mentioned things about like the school system and the kind of conversations around mental health in the 80s or 90s? Totally. I was diagnosed in like 2001. I was kind of the precipice. I probably fit somewhere in between where you were at, where Haley, as far as like, you know. But the point is that I was 7 is when those things sometimes start to show a little more apparently, start to show in kids. But we had to like drive. My mom had to become like a private investigator, right? My mom had to basically take the reins and be like, what's going on? So like the parental involvement. How do you feel like what do you think the importance of parental involvement in discovering the strengths of a child, or the discovery of like, not just, well, maybe not just that, but how, you know, figuring you out.
That's a good question.
Yeah, boy, how long do we have? I mean,
let's get into it.
I mean, but I mean, that is to say, that was huge for me. I mean, my parent, you know, I mean, the number, I mean, with all the, you know, the parent teacher meetings and all of that, you know, I mean, my parents were on campus just about as much as I was, you know, I mean, it was, you know, meeting with, you know, with counselors and learning specialists and everyone, you know, and for me at that time, everyone had their idea of what it was. Everyone had their different idea of, you know, what was wrong with me, you know, I'm sure a lot of people, like you have like 5 different people, they all have something different to say, and it's like, okay, great, that's a help. You know, but I think when I was in high school, you know, the like Asperger's was the big buzzword, and so they were like, oh, it must be Asperger's, you know, and it's like, yeah, maybe, and you know, and then it's just, and then it also, but it still would come down to like, yeah, okay, what are we, you know, what's like the optimal situation? What's the optimal educational situation? I mean, I think the biggest thing that my parents, you know, the approach they took to me, and as far as kind of as I was, getting through high school and going and pursuing higher education and all of that. I mean, it was, you know, what they would always say is, what do you want to learn, and what's the best way for you to learn it? You know?
So they just asked you what you needed.
What you needed, and then
sounds so simple,
it's so simple,
and
right?
so it was, and a lot of it was all of us kind of learning together, like what were the alternatives, you know, because you know, at the time when I was starting college in the early 2000s, there weren't a lot of different resources, and so figuring out what was the kind of structure that I would best thrive in, and we were all kind of fumbling together, and like, okay, maybe this, maybe that, and you know, and you know, I think I went to like kind of an alternative, like kind of like hippie off campus kind of college
Where did you
system.
go to college, if you don't know?
Well, I attempted to go to college out of Goddard in Vermont.
Okay.
And you know, and they had kind of a self-driven kind of academic program, which on the surface seemed awesome. And then when I was actually trying to, you know, create my own, you know, structure on my, you know, day to day was a nightmare. And
so I went to, do you know what the Evergreen State College is?
Yes.
So that's where I went to school. Also had individual learning plan. Basically, you could write your own curriculum like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I thrived off of that because
that's awesome.
Because I thrived after creating my own little pocket of structure, as opposed to the moment I was told something to do from a professor that was just the slightest bit like. I just was not. I'm just anti-authority, and so I was just ready to just do my own thing.
Most of us are though, because I know from my perspective, I was always the good kid. Like I was always the teacher's pet, but I remember also thinking, but why do I have to do this? I guess I'm supposed to. It's not necessarily that I felt that it was fair or the way things were supposed to be. And as I got older too, being at the jobs that I've done, it frustrates me so much because I feel like what everyone thinks is, who are neurotypical, thinks is supposed to happen or how things are supposed to work. Or for example, they think, you have to follow these specific rules to the T, or you're the one in the wrong. I'm like,
Yeah, it's
what?
The way you get the work done is wrong, but you could both come to the same conclusion. You could both come to the same finished product.
Like, I'm glad that you had that experience where your parents and them wanted to figure out how to help you, because I think it's really lacking, especially even now, even though they're learning so much about it. There's a lot more talk around it. It's being more understood.
A lot of TikTok around it.
Sure. Oh, I bet.
How did I know you were going to say
We're mind
something
melding
like
on this. Yeah, we mind.
that now I lost my train. Thank you.
See,
it was such a good train of thought, man.
It was so great. The greatest train of thought. Best.
Where was I, though? You have to help me.
Okay, I'm going to bring you back into it. I'm going to bring you back in. You were talking about the conversations around Beyond the Spectrum, the current state.
Yes, okay, I'm back. And schools and things do not try to figure out how they can help you. They try to figure out how they can get you to do the way they want you to do things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. That's exactly how it's structured. It's all about. Yeah, right. Yeah, how can we help you conform to, to the system that we have? And
poor teachers just like, honestly, the funding. If I really look back, because I was also placed into the special needs kind of class in elementary school, right? When you get taken away from the main class and you're just kind of brought to the side and you're brought into that class. And looking back on it, it was a very frustrating environment to be put in there.
Yeah.
And then have kind of a teacher that was not only like trying her best to be patient with these kids that were in there that were really jumping up, bouncing off the walls and going through emotional turmoils with certain things, to basically be like there was that one person at the school for that, right? And so, like, at the end of the day, I look back on it,
and that's a lot for one person to do. Yeah,
and I look back on it now, and I, in a different light of just like, what a way to take it. Like, you want it, like, you're going out of your way to help kids that you're doing this for a reason. Obviously, you're here to help kids that are in these different states of mind and different things happening either at home or at school or whatever. But it's so.
A lot of those people their intentions were correct and their heart was in the right place, but it's like they're not getting the help from the administration. They're not. The deck is stacked against them too.
Exactly.
That is the sad part.
Down.
Like, so many people have really good intentions, when it comes to that.
But they're not given the tools. They're not given the tools to truly be of service, and so then that's frustrating for them. Then they get discouraged. You see that happen a lot, unfortunately.
It's a vicious cycle.
I mean, it seems like sadly that's still happening to a degree. Though it seems like there are a lot of advances we've made in the last 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And when did you say that you figured out that you were on the spectrum?
It's interesting. Because it was again, there was a lot. They were using a lot of
different terms.
Yeah, they were using a lot of different terms. I think that they didn't necessarily couple with autism or equate to autism. Like I think for a while I was they would use the terms like like a nonverbal learning disability, things like that, or and then I think what they really identified is that for me was that I had my level of processing was very high, but the speed at which I processed was lower. Was much lower, and so it created this discrepancy, and so then they ultimately, I think they, they were giving it a name. I think, which I think at the time they called it, pervasive developmental disorder, and then I got a special additive not otherwise specified. So my entire diagnosis was a big shrug.
Oh wow! Okay. That's what doctors do. They're like, we have no idea what this is, so we'll just say unspecified.
We'll just say, fuck if I know. Yeah, that's it. And so that...
Fucking figure it out yourself.
Figure out yourself. Good luck. Yeah. And,
good luck in the world, buddy.
Yeah. And so I think that's a diagnosis that now has been kind of grouped into what we now call atypical autism.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and so for a while, I had no idea that random useless diagnosis was in fact autism.
Yeah. And I think that's also what they're discovering now, coming across why so many people are now figuring out when they're much older that they are on the spectrum,
right,
is because it's a spectrum. Like
they should call it late onset autism is what. No, I don't know.
Okay, first off,
should we come up with less terms? Do we need more terms?
They didn't do studies on girls.
They
did studies on boys. So you'll find a lot more.
I didn't know that. That's wild.
Yeah, a lot more boys were diagnosed way early on. And because they didn't do studies on girls, they didn't know what it looked like in girls. Autism comes across differently a lot of the time.
Makes sense.
For example, autism in a boy, they come off as more so sometimes laid back necessarily than autism in a girl makes them seem more anal and needing to get things done and being on a very kind of schedule. Even though it's very similar in a lot of ways, of course, and there's a lot of like in boys, of course, it's like I need to get things done at a certain time. Again, it's a spectrum, but that's kind of just like the very beginning of it for me, of me kind of trying to understand how it come across for me or how I work necessarily.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, honestly, because at the bare minimum, it's even hard to diagnose in the first place in men.
Totally.
So you add on top of that the lack of data, right, that they collected. I think this is something I kind of bring up on the podcast from time to time, but it could even just be interpreted as, from the outsider, as anxiety, right? At the bare minimum.
I was told I had severe anxiety.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And which honestly is like, yes, but, it's like, yes,
I feel like there's a bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wild to me that, that anxiety is still, it's like its own diagnosis, because I think if it's so often symptomatic of something completely different. It's something else entirely.
Yeah.
And, it's like, certainly in our case, like, that's just like like symptomatic of navigating the world, being on, being neurodivergent, being on the spectrum.
The crazy part too is anxiety can even be a symptom of, for example, something that's getting really like heavily diagnosed now, POTS. Like it could be anything, but it's easier for them to just go, I don't know, it's too generalized, you have anxiety.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like you go to the doctor, oh, it's anxiety.
Well, it's because it's probably in that sense, because it's very black. And when a doctor needs to diagnose something, they have to make sure it's black and white. And anxiety drugs, certain ones in particular, can work in correlation with, autism or antipsychotic, right? So it just depends, like, because I think at the end of the day, the reason the diagnosis is going to happen is to write the prescription. We have to be honest with ourselves. Like, it's like that is the end goal of, our for-profit, medical system. And I was medicated for a long time, so I do know that was like the target of it, is like an antipsychotic or anti-anxiety meds actually help to, like, with Tourette's, right? The interesting thing about it is, I think you're right. Anxiety is like, it's so, when they say it, it's so general, but I think it's actually just a building block. Yeah. It's like a structural building block of most neurological things. Not everything, but it's like the base layer of the cake. And then on top of that cake, you add the other ingredients. And
but often it's made to seem like it's the main issue. Right. And then you're trying to grapple to figure out how to help yourself.
Right. Because again, the anxiety is coming from just the stress of navigating a world you weren't wired to naturally navigate.
Exactly.
So then it's like so if we can spend more time just focusing on that part of it, like that's that's really where a lot of it is helpful.
Because when I was told I had severe anxiety, they asked me 3 questions and I talked to them for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You have anxiety, here you go.
Yeah.
That was it.
It was based on a 5-minute conversation.
That was it.
Yeah.
They
Right.
didn't do anything else and that was it.
Right.
And
yeah.
it's
No, I mean,
true.
yeah. I was going to say, like, yeah. I was talking to a psychiatrist, recently, for anxiety, and we're talking about switching up medication, and like I was trying to because that's always very scary, kind of trying to adjust your meds and all of that, and so I was like saying like, oh, how do how will what are the things I should look for as far as if it's working? Like, how will I know if it's working? And she said, oh, if you feel better.
Oh, that's so descriptive of her.
Thank you. Thank you.
You just go, I give up.
Well, you know what's interesting about that feeling, and you probably, if you've taken medication, in which I have for the Tourette's specifically, but it kind of trickled around. It helped with other things with spectrum related. The Tourette's is a cousin of these, all these things we're talking about today. But it actually, I don't think anxiety ever went away when I took those drugs. It always felt like, you have the pit in your stomach, and all it really does is like, if you shook a bottle of champagne, and you open it immediately, that's what the anxiety would be like without it'd be whatever burst out of energy that needed its output. But with, if you just shook it and just let it sit, and then it simmered, like the pressure. Yeah. Got caught at a threshold and then was like, ooh, right? So that's, I think, what those drugs really do. And it, in a way, it kind of is, it's suppressing those things.
Yeah. I know for me, I take citrulline. I've taken citrulline since I was a junior in high school. And at this point, it's more so that you get withdrawals from it when you. Sometimes I feel like I'm a druggie. No, not really, but like. Sure.
Yeah, we can take.
But the withdrawal is actually pretty bad. Where like if I miss like one day, you get I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this before, but your vision goes. It's like crazy. A weird, it's as if you forced your eyes sideways and the whole world just shifts. It's like called brain zaps.
Oh, is that what they're called? I've had that once. I thought it was just vertigo.
Crazy.
No, I had that actually. No, I had that when
you said it with such a straight face.
No. I had it when I. Okay, fun fact. I jumped into a pool, skinny dipping, naked, an Olympic-sized pool in the middle of the night. It was at a spa in Ashland, Oregon. Aptly named Jackson Hot Springs, actually.
Oh, it was
It was a nude spa, and so
you felt comfortable because it was named after you.
Yeah, exactly. It was my place. I could walk around like I owned it. So obviously I stripped down, and I'm with a cousin of mine who was introducing me to the area, and we're out there. And then I remember, I went from the hot tub of the hot springs to the cold pool. It's very wakes you up, and I got in there, and I think it was enough of a shock to the system. And yeah, I had like record spinning style like a DJ was like, but my eyes were like, it was like that. It was over and over. It was nuts. Like if a CD started skipping on that one section, my eyes were just like.
But that's literally what it's like, only it's sideways.
Oh, that's wild.
And then you feel like you have the flu.
Oh, that's so annoying. That's so wild. Yeah. I'm so glad I don't. Well, I got off my medications is because I had the form of Tourette's for that stuff that I was able to grow out of. I still have mild tics, physical tics, but the concern over the course of my life was, like you said, going off of medication is the act of doing so is scary, and just in the sense that your body chemistry is about to shift in a in a pretty strong direction, and I was able to, but they have to get you down to a pretty small dose before you can do that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, the main benefit I've found it when it's at its when it's working at its best is that it kind of, compartmentalizes my physical reaction, my emotional reaction. So it's kind of like, and in the past, like when you have those physical reactions that then immediately kind of transfer into your emotional reaction of freaking out or whatever. It's, then it's like when it's working, you're like, oh, my heart is racing. Oh, my palms are sweating. Okay. And then it just and you're able to kind of separate yourself from that instead of getting kind of lost in the spiral.
It grounds you.
It grounds you in that. Yeah, we're able to separate that. It's like, this is my body reacting to anxiety,
Contextualizes
you're able
it.
to like figure it out rather than being overwhelmed by it.
Getting overwhelmed by the anxiety and the racing thoughts and everything. You're just like, this is my body's reacting to the anxiety. Okay, I can step back and let that happen and then move on.
You go into producer mode. You're just like, okay, everyone, let's figure this out. Yeah.
You're stressed out still. You're still anxious, but you're gonna figure it out. You can step back and figure it out.
Exactly.
We talked with one of our guests about hyperstimulation, and I feel like it's a good thing to go into, especially since you're a creative who works on film sets and is around a lot of the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
What are some of your triggers, if you have any like sensitivities to that stuff, and how would you describe them to people?
Yeah, I think again, I think a lot of my overstimulation comes from new unfamiliar stimuli. So I think certainly I think a lot of different stimuli at once is, definitely that can be, that can be very overwhelming. It certainly was when I was younger. I think I've found ways to kind of navigate that as an adult. It was really hard for me as a kid. But I think, as an adult, I think once I'm familiar with the environment, I kind of know the rules of the setting. That's kind of why I was talking about, like, knowing, kind of, the structure of a creative environment, like the set or the stage. You kind of, once you understand some of those rules, then then it gets, even then when there's a lot of stuff happening, you still have like those different things to hold on to, of just like, okay, the camera's there. Okay, they're gonna call me to set in 5 minutes. Like,
so on day one, do you feel like you're collecting that information?
A lot of the time, figuring that out, getting kind of taking in the entire environment, knowing what's going on, what the rules are, all of that, and then that kind of helps you kind of navigate, the chaos and the overstimulation.
So because and I'm also familiar with the sets and how they work and everything, and then a lot of times you even have a PA like guiding you. You don't like,
it's great. Like, I love that. So good.
It makes it a lot easier because you're generally gonna have the same situation, right?
Yeah.
They bring you here, you have a trailer, you eat, they bring you there, you perform.
The best.
So also being on set's very known for last minute changes, a lot of last minute things, right?
Yeah.
So when you have that structure, does it help you deal better with that change?
Sometimes, yeah. And I think, and usually I'm able to, when there is that kind of, last minute changes, like finding your point person, finding like, it's like the first or second AD or someone who's like, who's able to kind of like, if you need those check-ins, because it can be hard sometimes when, they might change up the entire setup, or, and then they change the camera around, and like, and so now, and then, your blocking is changed, or kind of, the rules kind of change on you, or maybe the terminology changes on you, even though it's the same thing. They're just using different terms.
Yeah, it depends the set. Like, but it generally means the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes it's hard for you to, when you're getting all that information. So like just, if you're lucky enough to have like, the AD or first AD or someone you can just talk to, like, hey, like, so am I and so I start on this mark and I go to here. It's like, that's still the, so, just making sure all of that's the same, and you just kind of get the rules of it, so that then you can just relax.
Yeah. Do you try to ask people to help you out a bit more with that if you need it, or do you feel like you can't? Or
I've gotten better at that. Yeah, there was definitely when I was I mean, when I was younger, when I was first starting out, and you kind of have that, that you're less familiar. You kind of when you first get your gigs, and you get your first jobs, and there's that feeling of like, oh, I like do I don't want to screw this up. Like I don't want to be I don't want to be a burden on other people. I don't want to and thankfully now I've done it long enough that I'm able to have that assertiveness of just be able to if something's not clear to me, I know that I can ask. I know and it's just like and you have that. That you have that permission to do that, because that's that's your job.
Do you feel like to piggyback off of that? Do you feel like so you talked about like the feeling of like being a burden or burdensome.
Yeah.
I think like this might just relate to a lot of people that are on the spectrum or have some sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially with parents, but more so even in the education system, you feel like sorry, I got distracted by Terrence. A shadow moved through the frame, and I was like,
you're like,
no,
Are we good?
Yeah. No, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
He's checking.
He's just occasionally checking.
Yeah,
amazing. I love that.
It's good. Thank you, Terrence. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah. So basically, that how do you feel like it's time and experience that helps people get rid of Snappy no. Hey, just down. You can tell her down.
Oh, hey, buddy.
You can tell her down. Hey, Snappy, go to bed. Go to bed.
She's in 2 episodes
Go to
now.
bed. Yeah,
Incredible stuff.
She's wrecking. Snappy, go to bed. Shh. Look at me. Go to bed. Go to bed. Actually, yeah. No, she just wants attention. Just pet her.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep, that's your job now.
Anyways, what were you saying, Jackson?
I want to unpack the feeling of shame that some people might feel around having these things,
Totally.
and it can, and how it expresses itself, and how do you get over that? Is it experience? Is it time? Or is it partially that, the mechanisms, the tools that you're using to get through those days?
Could you articulate that?
Yeah. So to explore, like if you were to give advice to someone, who feels burdensome, it feels like they're kind of like misinterpreted, or they're not going to be, they're misunderstood.
Yeah.
What would you say to them as like from your experience personally?
I mean, it's so hard again, because for me, it just comes from, it just comes from experience. And it's like, I think, but when you're there to do a job, it's like, they've hired you because they trust your ability.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, you're there, I think in a way, and especially as an actor, I think, part of their job is to create an environment so you can do your best job. Mm-hmm. And so I think, when talking about, I think, letting that enable you to, to kind of get that information, know that you have that's completely within your right to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So making sure to ask questions of and then, but also, you're right. The positive affirmation, the understanding that you were there for a reason, that you got in the door, and it might be a pressure cooker environment, but you're there. And so,
you belong there just like everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. That's good advice.
I can say for sure too. I've had many times where I felt very like stupid and slow, and I did not know what was wrong. I always thought there was something wrong with me, and I didn't know what it was. Yeah, and grew up is Sarah too, my twin sister. Have you seen?
Maybe we met. Yeah, maybe we met. Yeah,
maybe.
maybe.
He's
yeah.
like, maybe.
What if we just switched you?
Yeah,
what if we switched you out with her on?
That'd be
one of these
amazing.
episodes?
Oh,
I think people would know
They would
because
know
we look kind of different.
No, I know.
there you go.
But both Sarah and I like struggled with that, and we didn't know why we should. Everyone thought we were odd. They called us weird.
Yeah.
I called you guys autistic before on the
He
spectrum.
knew we were before we did.
Sure. Yeah. I've had that. Yeah.
And our parents tried to help us a lot. Like they love us very much, and they did a lot of what they could, but there wasn't enough information. They didn't know.
Yeah.
So
Right. Exactly.
That's actually so from like. No, thank you for describing that, because I think that the temptation to get in our own heads about this stuff.
Totally.
That's what this podcast is going to help do for people, is to like be like, oh, shoot, like not only can I relate to that, you might have some as simple, talk to the camera, as simple as anxiety or something like that, generalized anxiety, but you want to do, you want to do things like act, or you want to perform, or you want to do things in the field of the arts or entertainment. These are all helpful, like it's almost like just practical tips and tricks. So
totally,
that's pretty cool. Haley, is there anything that we want to continue to go and recover? My mind is a little bit I am reaching that slow point we were talking about.
I sensed it.
A low processing moment.
Well, what's great is we can all understand each other when it comes to things like that. We're like, oh, it's okay. We'll work with it. But I guess, so we've touched upon a lot of really cool things, and actually the last thing you were describing, like kind of giving advice and everything, made me I was like, I don't need to be emotional, I'm fine, but it did make me a little emotional because I'm a very emotional person, but it did touch me, so thank you for
awesome.
You know what I will add in post is a violin.
He always makes fun of me because I get too emotional, and he's like, Haley, bring it back in.
No, you're projecting. No. I'm okay with you being emotional.
Right.
Yeah, you're projecting. Okay. I'm okay with you being emotional. My mind went cinematic. I thought lone violin, slow zoom, for that moment.
Very good. Yeah, Jackson, thank you. And Haley, how does that make you feel?
See, this is what the problem is with our podcast. It's going to turn into a therapy for us.
One of our interviewees was sitting over there and was like, it felt like a therapy session.
She said it felt like couples therapy.
Yeah, like couples therapy. But anyways, so a project that you worked on that made you realize that you were capable of anything.
Oh, wow.
And like kind of turns that for you.
Let's see. I think I definitely had a few. I think one of my first feature films out in LA was it was kind of at the end of the found footage movement, and it was a found footage horror film called Children of Sorrow. That it was kind of it's kind of a first person camera, take into basically like a religious suicide cult, kind of like half Manson, half Jonestown kind of thing. And so I was like one of the young impressionable cult members in that, and it was one of those where they had written up a whole script, and then were just because of the nature of how they were filming, they were finding that they could just get a lot of things just from kind of ad lib moments and things, and so like halfway through the film, they just like threw out the script and were just like creating all of these moments, and it was really cool because I was playing kind of a character that I felt had had a lot of similarity to myself, and it was, my one of my best friends, Ryan Finnerty, had written the script that was and had come up with all of these characters, and kind of kind of knew that this was kind of a character that I could really come alive in, and so I was able to kind of bring a lot of the emotion that I had, kind of from growing up on the spectrum and things like that, and feeling isolated and feeling and feeling alienated in that way, and character, as someone who always wanted to find your the people you relate to, always wanted to fit in, and so I think it was so that was something that there was that emotional core that I had really connected to at a level that I really hadn't in a character before, and so that was a real kind of breakthrough moment for me of having a performance that I was really proud of, and material that I was really proud of, and that was definitely a moment where I was like, oh well, this is if I can find a project like this and a role like this, then there's a lot that's possible for me,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was I would say that was that was like a breakthrough project for me, as far as as far as me as an actor, and knowing kind of what was possible, in this career. Yeah.
That's actually quite phenomenal, yeah.
Any other person would be like, oh, let me tell you about Mandalorian.
Sure.
but I am interested. But the fact that it was actually, that was a very profound, that is a very profound moment in your acting career,
right,
where you tapped into the place that you got to, that was necessary for you to get there. And right. That's real. I mean, do you think that there should be, and I say this selfishly as I have a script about kids on the spectrum who, do you feel like there needs to be a variety of more stories in this world about, in Hollywood, about spectrum disorders?
Oh, absolutely.
And the reason I say this is because we only got a few right now. We got Rain Man, and the reason everyone thinks autism is Rain Man, we have a lot of misinformation out there. No, I'm serious. No, but that's
we need content of people who are autistic but are just living their lives, and it's not completely centered around being autistic.
100%. It's like anything. It's like, it's like any kind of minority group. It's like the early content is all about putting it's the first time that's illuminated, so it's just like, well, let me tell you all about this, and then it's like, and so every kind of revelation is like the big plot point, whereas in for people people living that life, that's just another day, and
exactly.
And so I think we're beginning to see more of where that is, that's where that's more that's not like so kind of put in the foreground, and it's just more where it's just where that thing kind of thing is normalized, and I think and our understanding of it deepens, and I think because I think our the difficulty is that like a lot of is it's something like a someone who's neurodivergent. That's something you can't just call out immediately of just that person. Oh, there's the neurodivergent character in the film.
Which is kind of what's funny is all of the characters that were written as quirky or whatever, you rewatch it and you go, they're just not.
They're just right. Oh yeah, that weirdo. Yeah, no, they're just they just
but
have.
They didn't write them to be. It's just now we have more of an understanding of what is.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many. Yeah, it is. That is so fun of just going through and just being like, oh yeah, they're just displaying neurodivergent, characteristics.
So I have to speak this into existence. So we should have a segment eventually called "Ought or Not." And we should do it again.
Totally.
We should do it again, like with like Shaggy or Scooby. Like we could do it for fictional characters. Right. We could do it for whoever. It could be, character based. We don't have to do it to actual people. But
I still remember there was a whole internet thread when the Ryan Gosling film Drive came out of whether his character was on the spectrum.
And no, they were just like, it'd just be cool if he didn't talk that much.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Isn't Ryan Gosling so cool in this jacket?
Right, yeah.
Like, and it'd be even cooler if we had no dialogue.
Right.
No, that's the director making a choice, right? That's an example of him being like, we're paying him this much money, but how about we just don't give him lines?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So now that we're kind of nearing more towards the end, right?
More towards the end.
Should we bring in Terrence?
We were less towards the end before. Now we're more towards
now
the
we're
end.
More
towards the end.
For the
That's how that.
The end is nigh.
The end is nigh.
It is nice. Should we bring in Terrence?
Terrence, do you have anything to add?
Do you want to ask?
Or ask? Yeah.
Face the camera when you ask the question.
I know that. It's sorry. It's been a day.
Aww.
I'm sorry.
Oh no. It's
Can I put an audience sound in there? I think I just need to add
Totally,
sitcom
we're leaving
sounds.
that in.
Yeah.
Even Galen was like, no.
No, it's not like a sad thing. It's not like my cat.
We're getting a soundboard next. That's
Yes. Gotta have the soundboard.
Actually, I don't know if I want to give this guy access to a soundboard.
Yeah, no.
Might be hell to
great,
pay.
though, honestly.
I will be so
responsible.
I was gonna say conservative. But
Okay, no, he would not be. He would run wild. What's your question, Terrence? What do you?
What is something that you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger and figuring out about being on the spectrum?
Oh, nice. See, he was sweating and he asked a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Now I just have to come up with a good answer.
You had great answers. It's okay. One can be mediocre.
Okay, good. Thank goodness. Oh yeah, thank goodness. I think as we talked about before is just that that it's not about finding the way to fit in. It's finding an environment that fits to you. And that's I think that's that was a huge revelation for me once I figure that out. I think it's one of those that you can understand intellectually for a long time, but like emotionally really understanding that that kind of learning to assert your needs and saying like, no, this environment doesn't work for me. I'm going to go seek something else, and not feeling like, because it's one thing to say like, oh yeah, like I'm, like I'm okay, I all of that, but it's another thing to, to really make those, those demands. And even when it's, because, I think growing up, we're always, it would be an educational experience or a work environment or anything, you're constantly made to feel like, you're not, you're not living up to their expectations and that sort of thing. And it's, and if I just was able to remind myself more of just like, no, this is just not my, this is just not the environment that's meant for me,
Yeah. Hold for ambulance.
Hold for ambulance.
Hold for. This is my studio / apartment, right?
It is.
I've created this space. I have surroundings around my lights and
really
stuff
cool,
that soften the lights, for example. What if you were to create the perfect space for yourself, a sanctuary, coming back after a long day of a performance or a gig or whatever? What would that space look like? This is like you needing to relax after an overstimulus.
Yeah.
Hyperstimulating day.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think like Like I think your dog I think has got the best deal with that huge bed. I would just have a bunch. I would just have a bunch of those beds. Like those beds look super comfortable.
Do you want to try it before we leave?
I might have to. That's a really She might get jealous.
She has a bed over there. She just is spoiled on this.
Yeah, she gets
end this with the photo of Galen just lying
in the dog bed. Yeah,
yes.
But I think like just. Like really plush environments. Like as a kid, I was like definitely like when you'd like go into the counselor's office or something, they had all the beanbag chairs. Like that was awesome. Like I feel like just having a lot of the big giant beanbag chairs and stuff like that, just like very like that to me is like a moniker of safety of just like, okay, like big giant beanbag chair, like you're good.
Did you ever have the seams thing so you talked about sensitivity when you were younger, more or less?
Totally.
Being more of and that was very true for me. For me, it was the seams on jeans or like the socks. Like, did you have anything that was like that as touch related?
Sure. Yeah. No, I would definitely. I was always very tactile as a kid. I would always kind of very respond heavily to texture and that sort of thing. I would I would like absent-mindedly just like pick paint off of the wall and shit like that. Like I would get into that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would get or I would play with the wrapper on on a water bottle or something like that, or on a soda bottle or something like that, and just pick that apart and that sort of thing, and just having that kind of tactile thing would definitely is definitely kind of a sort of stemming, a kind of grounding, tactic for me.
Yeah, for me, it's just humming all the time.
Humming? Yeah.
Without realizing it. There was one time where I went to Universal. This was in high school. I went to Universal with this group called Opus. It was like a traveling choir.
Wow.
Why does that sound like a cult?
It felt
I know
like a cult.
Opus. Yeah.
The Opus.
Yeah.
On Netflix.
Right?
Interesting time. But yeah, we went to Universal and we were all separated into specific groups. And I was in this group with this kid named, I think his name was Cole. And at the end of the day, I guess I was humming, but I did not know. And he went, "Oh my God, Haley." And I was like, "What? You have been singing the Scooby-Doo theme song for like 10 hours. And he waited until the very end of the day to say this to me. And I was like, "I was?" And he was like, "Yes. Please stop." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know." And it was the same song just all day.
Over and over again,
Over
on repeat.
and over.
Yeah, I've done. Yeah.
I felt bad.
Yeah.
But
Well, you should feel. No, I'm just joking.
Anyways, they're both mean to me.
So mean.
It's okay. It's a great dynamic.
Okay.
Is there anything you feel that's really important to touch upon, or anything you would like to tell people who will be viewing or listening to this podcast?
Man, I mean, I think, I think we've covered a lot of it. I think, again, just, I mean, I get, just, harping on it again, just like, I think, I think for anyone listening who's, looking for any kind of, kind of insider information, I think, I think finding finding circumstances and environments that work for you, and just kind of is so key, and it takes time. I mean, I didn't move out to LA until I was in my late 30s, and I think like a lot of people, they feel like the other side of that is to say, like, there's not a time limit as far as like when you figure out when you find the path that's right for you. It took me a while. I mean, I think part of it for me is I always had a sense of what my path was, but there was so many but there was so many outside information telling me it should be something different.
And sometimes people who are neurodivergent and everything need a little bit more time, but that doesn't make you any less capable of doing amazing things.
Yeah, both not just to find your path, but to find the way that you need to walk it, and that can take time too. And so I think, and the way and how to navigate that can just take time, and it's like it really I think as long as as long as you're actively doing the work, there's there is no deadline.
So in reality, like, yes, work towards your goals, work hard, work for it, but don't forget to try to understand yourself.
Absolutely, and what your needs are, what your needs are, and you're important. Yeah, and it takes that takes time, and you might need more time than others to get specifically what you want, because our needs are more specific and harder to articulate and harder to define. So that's just inevitably going to take time.
Yeah, you and your art plus time. It's one of those great things that a lot of really talented actors have also said, like Bryan Cranston. Like people that have had later and like really amazing careers.
Incredible, yeah.
But that they just know that they love the work and they love to do what they do, and 5 flops won't take them away from doing what they love. So that persistence is key. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Galen. That was a great interview.
Awesome.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, everyone give it up for Galen.
Everybody. The dog is who we're talking to.
We have a crowd. The dog actually turned. I think she is silently clapping.
She is.
Clapping her ears together.
100%.
For you guys.
Sure. Do you want to close out with a song?
Yeah.
Go on ahead.
Okay, great. Oh, I'm excited.
Okay, I'm just trying to recoup in my head what we were
talking
about. Life in the 80s was so serene. School was tough, but like everything. But I was never diagnosed, but I found the thing that I love the most. They sent me away to acting camp. I know it was okay when I saw that camera. I took the stage and the lights shined down on me. That's when I decided it was time to leave. And I went down to California. After I went to that art school that was kind of interesting. And then I went and I got in that cult film. I dug deep and I tried to get it in, yeah. It was so good, and then I was cast the next day in a Lucasfilm project. It wasn't the next day, but
That's right.
Yeah, then I got diagnosed and it made lots of sense.
Right. Yep.
I don't think this shit is heaven sent.
No.
But it's okay, and I don't know. It's not something that I'm feeling deeply in love, but it's something that makes me neurofuck. Oh, he's so neurofucked, and I'm so neurofucked. When you find you got autism and you can't do long division, that's why you're neurofucked.
It's not that that game of,
I don't know. There's some.
Right.
That was great.
Amazing. Awesome. Fuck yeah.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video. Would you like? Would you subscribe? Could you do all the nice things? Write a comment what you like, what you didn't like. We're here for you. We're gonna be here for you with all your wants, needs, and desires and your deepest fantasies. But maybe not that. Maybe not that. But like, you know, Haley, what do you think?
I think we should start over. I think my eyes were closed most of the